to Peter Hepburn here.
Good afternoon. Hello and welcome everyone to our Nanda Journeys afternoon presentation. Maybe it's not the afternoon where you are, regardless of where you're joining us from. When you're watching this recording, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited to join once again Nicola Balmain and Nanda Journeys in this amazing group to talk about a great destination, Vietnam, happening on October 3rd to the 11th, 2026. Talking about library and information services on this amazing journey with Dr. Peter Hepburn. Before we get into all the amazing details and all the great conversation that we have ahead of us, just a little bit of housekeeping, wanting to let everybody know everybody on the call is on mute. That doesn't mean we don't want your conversations. We absolutely do. We want you contributing. To do that, you just click on the chat or click on the Q&A section. Put your questions in there. Our conversation will hopefully focus on Vietnam, but probably will go off on different tangents. So if there's certain things that you want to contribute to, please feel free to do so. Also, this is being recorded. So if you do have to step away, or if you have a traveler who wants to come with you and they couldn't make it this afternoon, please know that we will be distributing that recording to everyone post-webinar, so that way you can catch any parts that you missed, or you can pass it along to any traveling companions who want further information. And now, so without further ado, I am joined by many people, but the first person I'm going to introduce is my co-host, my journey host, the person that's been with me through every single one of our webinars, Nicola Balmain, the president and founder of Nanda Journeys. Nicola, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I am so excited to talk about Vietnam.
Always a pleasure. One of my favorite things to do, as you know. Love talking about our journeys, Nanda Journeys, and introducing people to these opportunities to travel the world with their peers and explore in a way that we're very proud of here at Nanda Journeys. So good to see you, Michael.
Good to see you too. And joined us today. I know we have a lot of things that Nanda Journey does great. One of the best things that Nanda Journey does are our journey hosts, and this journey is no exception. Today, we're also joined by Peter Hepburn, who is an alumni or a past journey host. Tell us a little bit about Peter before we hear from Peter, who's also on the call today.
Peter, thank you for joining us. Lovely to have you. And I'm so excited that you said yes to picking up the mantle to leading our library journeys. For those of you on the call today, I think many of you are very familiar with this very special individual. Peter is just the perfect leader, and we're so excited that he said yes. We have done these journeys since 2006, previously with Camila Alier. And she has stepped away from leadership. She may join us on the journey, I'm not sure. But Peter joined her in Ireland last year, and we really felt he would be a perfect leader given his experience with the American Library Association, with his various professional roles and his current role at the College of the Canyons in California, where he's been there for quite some time. I know Peter is very, very well renowned in the ALA community and the library community across the United States. So I could spend an hour talking about Peter, probably, and the folks that are joining us probably could tell many, many more stories being professionally connected with you, Peter. But thank you for saying yes. Why did you say yes to this wonderful journey?
Thank you. I'm kind of laughing there. Please don't spend an hour talking about me. Also, for everyone on the webinar, you'll see two of us named Peter Hepburn on there. The other one is not Peter Hepburn. That's Janelle Eads, a friend and colleague who was on the Ireland trip. And you'll also see Peter Fallon, who is another friend and colleague from the Ireland trip. I got the mailing back in 2024 about Ireland, and I had never really considered something like this. And I thought, wait a minute. This is a great opportunity. I knew Camilla, who is leading the tours, and I thought it would be fantastic to go on something that she was leading. And I was right. I booked it without much hesitation. I had to go look at my budget first and make sure I could get the professional leave from work, which I was able to secure, and went on the trip and was absolutely hooked. I love to travel. I love visiting places across the United States and my home country of Canada and around the world. And this is just, it's another great excuse to travel, but it also has that professional side to it that really ties into where I am in my career. So I'm excited to lead this next trip and future ones, I hope.
Well, I think we have a 3-year plan.
I think we do, yes, but we're not going to tell people where the next
Going to
countries
talk
are
about
yet.
that yet. We're gonna convince them that Vietnam is a great starting point for them or a
Yeah.
returning point for them because we're joined today by lots of alumni. But Peter, thank you so much for helping us design this program, number one, for helping create the vision for it. And for those of you joining us today, it is a very collaborative experience because we care very deeply about the professional context here at Nanda Journeys. So Peter's already done a lot of work. We've written a mission statement. We've talked about how we want the program to flow. We've talked about what kind of professional experiences we want you all to have, but of course, what the cultural experience is. And for those of you joining us, I see lots of names that I'm recognizing, but I'm also seeing lots of names that are new. So let me share just a little bit about Nanda Journeys, who we are, what we do, and why we believe we do it really well. Um, as Michael said, I'm Nicola Balmain, the founder of Nanda Journeys. In my prior career, I worked for an international student travel company and professional development company called People to People Ambassador Programs. And I was with them for a very long time, and they closed in 2015. But my passion was about connecting people, about creating opportunities for people to really immerse in a country and walk the experience, not just read about it or see the highlights of the country, to feel it, to make a connection and come back feeling that they knew a little bit more about the people, the culture, the history. So I started Nanda Journeys, and here we are, creating opportunities for you to hopefully join us on this wonderful journey. And we do things a little bit differently here. We're very, very committed, of course, to all the logistics and the operations and making sure everything runs smoothly. But our passion is in the kinds of experiences we're going to talk to you about today. Small group, really bespoke, very intentional in our experiences, and staying committed to our philosophy of spending your travel dollars as locally as possible so that we can have an impact on the community, we can have an impact on the economic development of the areas that we're visiting, and overall to connect with real people, right? To have an authentic experience so you feel like you've met the people of Vietnam and understand them. So the Nanda Way was curated by leaders, travelers, friends of Nanda. We didn't magically spend a fortune to come up with that in some kind of marketing guru segment. It was designed and developed actually by the people that have traveled on our past journeys. So welcome everybody to the Nanda family.
And so above and beyond that, I mean, this every itinerary Nicola and Nanda has that Nanda way unique aspects to it. I love that the Nanda way was something that was organic, that was born from your travelers and guides experiences and your hosts experiences. But for this particular itinerary, tell a little bit about the experiences that are go above and beyond that cultural unique aspect of Nanda Journeys.
Yeah, it's going, everything you see here is what you would expect, of course, to attain on an international travel experience. But really, what differentiates us is going behind the scenes, peer engagement, conversations with real people, um, talking to people about the history and the culture, getting behind the sometimes veneer of, the beautiful thing about Vietnam is it's got such a rich history that's on the streets, right? It's not behind the glass. There is so much the dynasties, the colonies, the war and the recovery from war. There's so much to learn and feel. But the
Right.
Vietnamese people are super warm and welcoming. We've had so many international groups travel to Vietnam to explore their profession. Our most recent was an HR journey. So they want to connect. I think sometimes the question we get very often is, well, what about our history together? Is that going to
Yeah.
impact my experience? And no,
Mhm.
actually, it's going to provide a very enriching experience. Yes, that was a somber and dark time in our history, but the Vietnamese people are very warm and welcoming.
Yeah.
So be assured that you're definitely going to be warmly welcomed.
Yeah, and I think one thing in regards to the itinerary itself, for those that are looking at this slide, I think the way I love to explain it is, all they have to do is worry about showing up, and Nanda Journeys takes care of the rest, right? It's just
Mhm.
they tell you where to go, where to be, just worry about having a good time. That's all you really have to worry about. But what makes this journey a little unique and a little different, and why I love being a part of the Nanda Journeys family, is the fact that you guys do these amazing career enrichment journeys, and the ways that you blend culture and education along with professional engagement all throughout the entire journey. I know, Peter, you were on one of these professional career enrichment journeys previously, and Danelle and Peter, I know you guys joined us as well on that journey last year. But tell us, Nicola and Peter, I'd love your insight as well. What makes a career enrichment journey so different or so much more engaging than if I were to just go on my own to a different culture, a different country?
Yeah, if I may, Peter, I'll invite you to talk here because you've experienced it and you went from concept idea of what is this going to be to actually feeling it last year in Ireland. Could you maybe share with people what your perspective of the career development aspect of the journey is?
Absolutely. So when you go visit another place, you won't necessarily have the connections, the behind the scenes. If I'd gone to Ireland without Nanda Journeys, I would never have had access to the people who are working in the specific libraries. I might have gone to visit the University College Dublin, for example, and gone up to a desk and said, "Hi, I'm Peter Hepburn. I'm a librarian. I'd like to look around." But we got to have time scheduled with actual colleagues and not only have them present about what they're doing, but we got to pepper them with questions and get a tour in the context of it. So I was able to have a trip where I was able to think about the things that I might bring back to my library, but
Mhm.
also think about the things that are very different from my library, because it's good to step outside of my community college library, my academic setting, and look at public libraries and other places and what they're doing. I wouldn't have had that opportunity if I were just traveling on my own or with a group of friends. The other thing, though, is it's not just the people who live locally and work locally, it's the people in the group that you're with. So
Yeah.
being able to talk with Danelle and Peter and Prue and Dana and Rochelle and Marianne and Kathleen and Anne and it would just all of them together. We could share our experiences of what we're going through in our libraries now, what we've gone through previously, and not only have that in the context of the Ireland trip, but also think about it in our day to day. That was immensely valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been fortunate to be doing these journeys since 2006, both as people to people and now as Nanda. And the thing I love about it, we sadly don't hear the half of it, right? All of the connections that happen and the opportunities and the collaboration. One of the best things I ever heard was when our delegation went to Peru and they were able to introduce resources to their Peruvian colleagues from the United States that they otherwise would never have had access to allow them to develop their programs. And with Vietnam, I think there's lots of potential for that too. Ireland, slightly different, academic structure and a little bit more developed in some areas. Vietnam, its library association is still pretty new, I think. So I think there's lots of opportunity for collaboration, support, and sharing of knowledge, which, I think professionals like yourselves, it's really wonderful if you have a platform to be able to share something you're passionate about and for that to land and have an impact for somebody else as well.
Absolutely. And actually, we have a very unique opportunity on this particular presentation or this particular engagement, because we have two people that actually have been on a journey with Peter before in the past, Danelle and Peter Fallon. I apologize if I mispronounced, but we appreciate you guys being here. I'll let you go first, Danelle, in terms of your experience on a Nanda Journeys, professional engagement or career enrichment journey. What has been your experience, and kind of like what was the biggest thing that you took away from being a part of one of these professional journeys?
I actually love the experience. I went in not knowing what to expect. I had heard about these right when I finished library school, and I tried to ask my administration if I could attend, and they said, "No, why don't you just do ALA instead?" So then, I never really took it seriously. I had seen the notices come through. But for some reason, when the Ireland one came through, I said, I'm going to try this. And it was out of my comfort zone because I've never traveled on my own before, but I did not feel like I was on my own at all when I met up with everybody. And It was such a wonderful experience. And again, as Peter mentioned, not only were we on a vacation, but we were learning something. So that was what the unique thing to this is about. I've gone abroad before, but just on my own, never with a tour guide. So I really wasn't knowing what I was learning at the time. But this was such a unique opportunity. And again, the friendships that we developed, that I developed, um, they were so valuable to me as a librarian. And also, I call these people my friends. I wouldn't have signed up again to do it if it didn't have that impact with me. But I just loved every moment of this trip. So I hope some of you are seriously considering this because the experience was just once in a lifetime. Hopefully it'll be another one for me this time, but I just enjoyed it so much.
Yeah. I
Danelle, if I
love that.
may, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, Danelle, but I think it provided a little bit of validation for you to join the ALA in some kind of professional capacity on the board. Was
Oh,
that part of it, or
yes.
am I putting you on the spot there? And that's really not very kind of me.
Oh, no, no, it's fine. So, and I felt so close to everyone. We were going through this journey together, and we were, exchanging information about our libraries and what we were doing. So I was wanting to run for ALA Counselor at Large.
Mhm.
And I had the support of all of the group. And I really thank you, Peter, for encouraging me. I didn't get in the first time. I had applied for it. And I was told that was not selected on the slate, but I could have an opportunity to run by petition. And I was so devastated. And I told the group this, and Peter's like, "Oh, no, you can still run. You only need like so many um, signatures." And I was able to achieve that. So I am now an ALA counselor at large from 25 to 28. So thank you so
Wonderful.
much for all of your encouragement in that.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Wonderful.
Congratulations. I can see the
Thank
emojis
you.
popping up on my screen. I don't know if you guys see it as well. You're
Yay.
getting congratulations all around. Uh,
Thank
and
you.
and Peter, I know we haven't had a chance to hear from you either as well. Would love to hear your feedback. I see you there in the picture on the left, in regards to your experience in Ireland. And would love to hear kind
Yeah,
of
you
like your
might
feedback.
there. Now you probably recognize me from the
There
picture.
you go.
There you are.
Nicole, Nicola, I hope you noticed that I ran out and quickly put on a shirt that matches the font color for the presentation.
I love the Nanda purple. Thank you
Yeah,
for the endorsement. I love
I
it,
thought
Peter.
you'd
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. So, I've been lucky enough to experience professional programs multiple times, and the first one that I experienced was with my wife, who you see with me in the picture, who is the actual librarian in our family. So she is credentialed and has worked for many years in public libraries in Rhode Island, whereas I was just a corporate employee during my first trip with People to People that
Mhm.
Nicola mentioned previously. And we went to China. Prudence has also gone to India. She should be the panelist, frankly. Prudence! Um, she went to India with People to People. She went to Jerusalem with People to People. She went to China with People to People. And of course, she went to Ireland with Nanda, which we most
Mhm.
recently did. But I mean, if that, that should be some serve as some type of endorsement for the quality of these programs. And um, Nicola, thank you for carrying on the tradition once People to People stop, because here she is. Poke your head in there. I've got the West Side Story.
Oh, you can't see me because you got the thing on.
That's all right. Hold on, I'll get you up here. There
There.
she
Hi,
is.
Prue.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Great.
Yeah,
How are you doing, Prue?
good. I just want to jump in real quick and just say every single journey I've been on with People to People in Nanda has been fantastic. The tour guides are always really professional, kind, patient, which hasn't always been my experiences with other tour groups. And getting
And
people,
I would add ultra informative.
Ultra.
Yeah.
Well, when we went to Ireland, the gentleman who's to my left in the picture of the group, name was Des, and he
Hmm.
was beloved by the entire group. Not only was he phenomenal in making sure that we got to where we need to go, which sometimes is like herding cats, but he was deeply knowledgeable about Ireland history and politics and religion, and so you'd get a whole nother level of education while you're riding on a bus or eating dinner, so to speak. So when we went to China, I went in as a guest, which means that I did not go to the professional meetings. And
Hmm.
for anyone on the webinar who is thinking of bringing a guest, I would highly recommend it because the excursions that we had while everyone else was in the offices doing library meetings was phenomenal. So much so that I would meet up with my wife at the end of the day, tell her what I did, and she would be exceedingly jealous because she was in office hearing about Chinese approaches to the new library world. So that was really enjoyable. And during the island trip, which I went to with Nanda, um, my twist of my story was that 3 years ago I actually left the corporate world and started working in the local public library
Hmm.
as a lowly circulation assistant. But nonetheless, I like to think I have some, I dip my toes a little bit in some of the concerns of the people that were on our trip to Ireland.
Hmm.
And I was very impressed with not only the group that went, but um, the amount of peer sharing that went on was phenomenal. I mean, it was impressive, and it went on the whole trip. And I think there was some real, not only personal relationships that were built between the people, but some real professional connections that were built, and I'm sure continue to this point in time. So again, everything was top notch. It was very well organized. It was a great itinerary and a great set. The business meetings were fantastic. I know Peter mentioned that you get to meet your um, um, some of your associates who work in some of these overseas libraries, but we met a lot of leadership. I was very impressed by that. So you get to meet, no matter what you do in the library world, right? You could interact with people that were low to mid level folks in some of these libraries, or a lot of the leadership. And I think some of the meetings with the leadership was, I'm sure, to some of the depending on what your focus is on, was very beneficial to the members on our trip as far as getting what we were talking about, a lot of the concerns that there are nowadays around privacy, around
Hmm.
technological security.
Yep.
So it was wonderful. And I thank you for doing this webinar. These kind of things are very helpful. And I would encourage anyone who's participating on this Zoom meeting to attend.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Peter and Prue, for your endorsement and for your support. Without people like yourselves, starting another organization, post people to people, couldn't have happened without people like yourself. So I thank you for sticking around and for endorsing the way that we do things. And I really appreciate you both. And thank you, Danelle, for sharing your insights and Prue. Makes all
But
the
one
difference
more,
in the
I'm
world.
sorry, but I was neglectful in one more endorsement, which was Prue and I we were struck throughout the trip and immediately by Peter. And
Mhm.
we thought Peter was wonderful. He's just a great guy, incredibly knowledgeable, tactful, and just you couldn't ask for a better leader. So
Yeah, I
Thank you
agree.
so much.
I've only met Peter recently, and I've been doing this group travel thing for 15 years. And when you see a good group leader or a group journey host, you know them right away. And I can tell right away that Peter is genuine and knowledgeable and all the things you'd want for someone to take you, to other parts of the world and explore new and things and see new adventures. But with that said, let's start talking about Vietnam, our library and information services journey with Dr. Peter Hepburn, again, departing October 3rd to the 11th, 2026. We depart for Vietnam on day one, landing in Hanoi. We spend 3 nights in Hanoi before traveling south to Ho Chi Minh City, where we spend our 4 final evenings exploring the beautiful city of Ho Chi Minh, and then flying home from Ho Chi Minh. We are going to have kind of a larger, a 30,000-foot discussion about the itinerary. We're not going to go day by day through the itinerary. So I encourage you, again, if you do have any questions, you want to contribute to the conversation, please put them in the chat. Please put the questions into the Q&A aspect. But I have one question before we even get started, Peter. Why Vietnam? Why now?
Why Vietnam is because I have spent my entire career, 25 years, and even time back when I was a teenager working in public libraries in my hometown, my entire library career has been in a North American context. And I really wanted to look at some place that was very much different than that. Nanda Journeys and the Librarians went to Ireland most recently. So I didn't want to go back to Europe. I wanted to look on the other side of the world. What helps with this is that I have never been anywhere in Asia ever. And so selfishly, I thought, I want to go somewhere. My husband has traveled a lot in Asia for work and has spoken so highly of Vietnam. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could go? And then I can convince him to come along with me. That's one other part of it. But Nicola, you were talking earlier about the incredibly rich pre-colonial history in Vietnam, then the more turbulent last, say, century and a half of colonialism, the war, and now the time since the war. So I think that there's an amazing history to delve into there. And then finally, I know there's a few people on this webinar who know me in real life outside of this, and they know how much I love food. And I'm thinking, come on, Vietnam and food, this will be fantastic. So those are the reasons why I wanted to go and do Vietnam as the first one that I'm doing with Nanda Journeys as a tour leader.
I love that. Now I want to go, actually. So
come with us.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. I might pop in on my digital nomad adventure. I don't know what the next, 8-9 months looks like. We're taking off again in February, so I might see you in Vietnam. We'll see.
Okay.
One question for you, Nicola, before we kind of get into the itinerary. You sent Nanda Journey sends travelers all over the world. Vietnam. I go back and forth how I pronounce it, but depending on what separates Vietnam from your experience, what separates it from other destinations, what makes it one of those must-see destinations in the world?
Yeah, I think, it kind of gets left behind a little bit in terms of that priority for Asia as a destination for a lot of people. And most recently, I heard from another longstanding leader who's been traveling with us for over 15 years, Jerry Crispin, has his own HR business, and he's been leading these journeys all over the world. And he said he was so surprised by Vietnam because his expectations weren't met because he didn't have any, because he didn't really know what to expect from Vietnam. I think we tend to think we know what to expect for China or India or Japan or some of those others. So I think the nice thing about Vietnam is the pleasant surprises. The landscape is very different north to south. We're going to be exploring both the city environment and on the water. The waterways are a very, very important part of life. The cottage industries that exist on the Mekong Delta. You can see living history, but people have been living these traditional lifestyles for many, many, many generations. And then the cities themselves, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, they're very different and they represent a different piece of history, a different part of Vietnam. And again, I always come back to the people, regardless of where we're going. What Jerry shared with me was they were so amazingly friendly, open. Conversation was really easy. And then from Peter's perspective, the food was incredibly amazing. So I think those are the things that I'm excited about.
Yeah. And what kind of makes this journey unique? I mean, obviously a small group size. I've like I said, I've been in this industry for 15 years and I've traveled with 40 plus people. I've traveled with smaller groups. And I think this small professional group cohort really brings to life, allows you to kind of really see the culture in a very unique way. I've been, like I said, on those large groups where you pull into a marketplace or something and every head turns because all of a sudden 40 prospective buyers have just shown up and now they all want to sell. And it changes the environment. When you have a small group professional, not only does it allow you to see a more unique and authentic vision of the culture, but it also allows you to build stronger connections. As Danella mentioned, she made friends along the way, right? Like part of the reason why I love group travel is you bring your old friends and you make new friends along the way. Tell us a little bit about the small group professional aspect, but also the flexible accompanying guest program, because not everybody on the tour needs to have a library professional experience or, needs to be in that industry.
Yeah, so we are inviting 16 people to join, Peter. That includes guests, so librarians and guests and professional members of the group. And we keep it small for the very reasons you just described, to keep it intimate, to make sure that the discussions are rich, that people have an opportunity to really develop relationships with each other and know each other, so that welcome dinner, nobody really knows each other. By 3 days into the journey, everybody is, intermingling at dinners and lunches and having conversations with each other. So that makes it a very, very different experience. And then to be able to get into the places we get into, you can only do that with a small group. You can't do that with 40 people. And I think the impact of 40 people on a small community is pretty significant. So it's not the way we choose to travel. But the guest program, again, Peter, thank you for mentioning that. And I see your question, I'll answer that now, is privately guided experience. So if you're a group of 16 people and there's 4 to 5 guests, you're having a very, very intimate guest experience that's privately guided while your professional members of the group are in their meetings. And Peter asked, is it possible to also attend the guest excursions as a librarian? Sometimes, yes. We, of course, would ask our professional colleagues that are joining us to engage in as much of the professional content as possible, because that's where the rich experience is, the exchange, acknowledgement of our hosts that are hosting us. If there is something specific that you want to join, we ask you to let us know that well in advance so that can be scheduled or adjusted, modified if needs be in the itinerary. But yes, please, we do invite that question, but encourage you to participate in as much of the professional program as you possibly can. We try and find the right balance.
Awesome. And so part of it, obviously, a big chunk of the experience is just the idea of understanding and getting a better understanding of the librarian culture, the library professionals in Vietnam. So tell us a little bit about, engaging. Not only are we engaging with each other while we're on tour or on the journey, exchanging information and ideas, but also get a chance to engage with Vietnamese library professionals while we're in some of these amazing destinations. Nicola, I'd love your insight on regards to how we do that on this journey. But Peter, Peter, I'd love your insight as to kind of experiences you've had in the past. So Nicola, tell us a little bit about how that happens here in Vietnam.
Yeah, our goal always is to try and provide as well-rounded as an opportunity to showcase the profession as possible. So that could be actual public library access, university libraries, private libraries, associations, leaders in the field. So we try and provide little snippets of each so that you hopefully come away with a very well-rounded perspective of how is the library profession. How does it operate in Vietnam? What are its challenges? What are the things that it does better than we do here? All of those things we encourage through open dialogue, roundtable discussions. So it's very interactive and, expect to be
Yeah.
participatory. Like Peter said, they had an opportunity to ask questions, to be curious, to exchange ideas. So the approach is that we can give you as well-rounded of a perspective as is possible in the time that we're there.
And Peter, I mean, in terms of your experience and journey in Ireland, was there any professional engagement or professional exchange that kind of stands out to you? And why would it happen to stood out from others?
One that really stands out for me is the day we went to Armagh and visited 4 different libraries. There was the town's public library. There was something that I guess could be equivalent to like a regional library service, and 2 private libraries that were accessible to the public. And so we got to visit each one of them, talk with the directors, and understand what they were all doing individually. But then at the last stop, all of the people we'd met with from earlier in the day came together. There was coffee and cookies, and we could hear about how they work collaboratively and just chat with them over coffee and cookies, which sounds so simple and basic, but it's a nice thing because it takes us from being a formal presentation to being colleagues sitting down together. So that day really stood out for me. Danelle and Peter, I'm not sure if you might have other memories that you'd point to, but that one really, I really appreciate that, for hearing all the different perspectives and then hearing about the collaboration from them.
Yeah, Danelle, Peter, anything to add to that? Peter, if you have any other experiences you've had overseas above and beyond Ireland, I'd love to hear of any professional exchanges that stand out to you.
I'd have to echo that with what Peter said. But actually, all of the library experiences that we had were wonderful because they were all different, So um, I don't know. It was just a unique way to kind of think about libraries in broad terms. We did some of the things that they did, and there were some different things. So I just learned a lot, and I never thought going on a trip would give me that knowledge, just being in this field. And I just kind of feel fortunate to have had this opportunity, to learn about a country and also learn about the profession that we're in and how we could come together and share, do resource sharing and that sort of thing. So it was just a unique experience, but I would say probably that one that Peter mentioned was probably my biggest takeaway, but it was so well planned out. And we were actually, I have to say, it wasn't like you were sitting around. It was like go, 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 but it was a good tired, because we were so engaged and you didn't have time to think about taking a nap. It was
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Yeah,
And then in turn, yeah,
I
go on,
would
Peter.
add as something that was kind of an impactful experience was not only did we get access to some of these libraries that Peter had alluded to, the fact that you probably wouldn't have access on your own. But and all of this, I'm a lowly circulation associate, so some of this is lost on me. But we were afforded at multiple libraries, if I recall, access to documents. Like we had to wear the white gloves. They gave everybody white gloves and they broke out these documents that were incredibly rare, incredibly old, and we all had a chance to go through them and look at them as much as we would like. And that was just one of the many experiences that was, just kind of like very impressive and fun. And we did go to a university, which I found really interesting because we were basically airdropped into this library at this university. And was that outside of Dublin, or was it? I think
Yeah,
it might
that
have been
was,
outside of
yeah,
Dublin.
University College Dublin, outside of the city. Yeah.
And it was just a bustling um, library environment and it was impressive with the students there were like, there was no room to sit in the library, and this place was huge, and it highlighted the dedication of some of these students to learning, because when I went to college, you could find plenty of seats in the library. People were doing other things, but I found that really interesting, just to all of a sudden be on campus and get to observe that. The business meeting itself was very insightful and educational, but the actual, just the soaking up the atmosphere of that modern university environment, outside the United States, I thought was impactful.
Yeah. Thank you for
And
sharing. Yeah, the university libraries are always, regardless of the professional focus, the energy of that exchange always seems to be something that resonates with everybody. So I would concur that, based on what I've heard from both our library professionals and also our other professionals that travel, that always has some kind of special resonance.
is there anything, Nicola, on this journey? I know that these professional experiences, are curated as the group kind of comes together. You're asking questions to see what is most interesting to them, so that way the experiences in Vietnam can be more catered to the individual travelers. But are there any experiences here in Vietnam that are kind of already kind of coming together that you're excited about, or something that you can share with the group before as they get excited for the journey?
Yeah, I mean the university exchange I think I'm very excited about, but also I think for everybody attending, whether you're a professional member or you're a guest, that the Temple of Literature, the fact that it's the very first university of Vietnam going back to 1070, dedicated to Confucius, um, the history, the depth of history kind of escapes us a little bit, right? We just can't think that far back. It's
Hmm.
like, 1070 and a university. And I think it really it reinforces and today more than ever that education is critical to civilization, right?
Yeah.
And I think um, that the other wonderful thing about these opportunities is how we can get outside of our comfort zone of home and everything that's happening around us and create a different context. Right.
Hmm.
So the world is a beautiful place. It's also a complex place. But those complex thoughts and feelings, you can unravel them in a different way when you're outside of your normal environment. And
Right.
I think that's what I love about these journeys is it provides a different context to conflict or differences in religion or differences in opinion or all of that is what I'm excited about for everybody. Connecting with your librarian peers is naturally going to be exciting, but I think the context around learning in a new country, that's what gets me excited.
So let's transition the conversation from professional engagement and professional development. You go to a country to see the people. I think Vietnam has one of the most beautiful and flourishing cultures and communities in all of the world. So I think the opportunity to not only see the professional side of it, but also the community and cultural side of it, and experience the culture in many different ways. You experience it through the people, through the history, through the architecture, as well as through the food. And I know Vietnamese food is a very, very big part of their culture. Part of the reasons why Peter said he wants to go. But we do have a question that I do want to bring to the forefront, because a lot of people, that when they do travel, food, it can be a stressor for them, right? Am I going to find food that I enjoy? Am I going to spend the entire time hungry, or that sort of thing? And we do have a question from someone that has mentioned that they have celiac disease. And
Hmm.
so they're questioning or wondering, what kind of accommodations does Nanda make for those and others that may have allergies for food, or might be a little bit more, maybe they're vegetarian or that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, we accommodate all dietary requests. We actually conduct a conversation with everybody. We ask everybody to complete a health form so we can make accommodations. It's private, obviously, so that we can make accommodations. I was recently in New Zealand and Australia with somebody who's become a great friend of mine now, travels frequently with Nanda, and she's a celiac. I think pretty much on most journeys we have at least one celiac, and we understand that it's not just a gluten allergy. It's something that's really important that gluten is not introduced into your diet at all. My mother-in-law is a celiac. So those can be accommodated. Obviously, might not necessarily be the items that you eat in your regular daily diet, but lots and lots and lots of fruits and vegetables and differently prepared fish and meats. And there's definitely an opportunity to have a really rich experience in Vietnam. So yeah, not to worry
We have
about that.
another we have another attendee that says that they're also celiac, so they appreciate
Yeah,
someone else asking the question. So
yeah, yeah. Any
we
questions,
can
please
accommodate.
don't
Yeah,
sit on them. Don't sit on your questions. We're here to help.
perfect. So let's talk a little bit about the cultural experiences that we'll be experiencing in Vietnam, in regards to walking tours and that sort of thing. Tell us a little bit about the cultural experiences that those that will be joining us on this journey can look forward to.
Yeah, as we mentioned before as well, the deep history, the dynasties and the colonialism and the architecture of both cities, I th think is something that's going to fascinate you, from the pre-colonial times to the very modern day. It's a very modern city. Our HR professionals were there because there's a lot of work being done in AI and recruitment, and it's a very it's a modern culture. I think some people wonder, is Vietnam as developed as some of the other Asian communities? And yes, it is. So I think I'm excited about that. Again, the Temple of Literature, I'm super excited about that one for you to enjoy, but also the day on the Mekong Delta. This one, it's bustling, it's life. It's not just going out on the water, it's seeing life on the water. Agriculture, farmers sell all of their produce here. This is where you can eat rice paper, small cottage communities. Again, going back to that conversation around supporting small village communities. We'll have a cycling trip through a small village. If you're not a cycler and you don't want to cycle, there are other options for you. But of course, lots of cycling, lots of bicycles in Vietnam. So if you wanted to be part of that culture, we have that opportunity for you too. But you're seeing fruit gardens. You're seeing where the farmers are growing this fruit that they're selling on the Mekong Delta. So this whole day by a traditional wooden boat really gets you connected to the culture and the people.
Yeah. I mean, every destination has these amazing experiences on the cultural side of things. Everybody, as we know, the part of the reason why I love travel so much is getting a chance to step into someone else's shoes and experience their culture in a
Yeah.
very unique way. Peter Hepburn, I know that you were just on one of these journeys, and obviously professional engagement wasn't the only experiences that you had. Was there anything culturally on your Ireland journey that you kind of thought to yourself, wow, this is something I wasn't expecting, or wow, this is really going to be a memory I'll keep for the rest of my life?
Uh, One that jumps to mind is on our way to Belfast, we stopped at a farmhouse, and the woman there showed us how to make soda bread. And not only demonstrated it, but almost everyone in our group, with the exception of me and one other person, because we were busy taking photographs of everyone else, got their hands into it. So I have photos of both Danelle and Peter, with their hands in the dough making the soda bread. And then we sat down to a lunch together that they had provided of soup from made from ingredients from their garden and the soda bread that we made. It was really cool because it's, again, me and food, as I've mentioned a few times. So it has that, but food is part of the culture. And I wouldn't have expected on a library trip to be seeing 10 of my friends and colleagues all elbows deep in dough making bread for lunch. That was a really cool thing.
That's great. Anything above and beyond that, Danelle or Peter, that jumps out to you in regards to cultural experiences that you had on the last journey that kind of really stand out?
I remember the sheep. We went to that farm, but I forget what it was, but the sheep were doing these tricks and things. And it was just so interesting how I've never been around sheep like that before, but they were very smart and they put on a show for us. And also the dancing and the music.
Mhm.
With the Ireland music, I guess that was so interesting to me, and I recorded that, but I never think about different types of music, like I'm an old-fashioned girl. I like old jazz music, but this was almost like, I don't know, bluegrass. It was just different, and I just really I enjoyed the experience of something different and how people celebrate their culture. It was just wonderful.
Love that. Great. And I think one thing,
I
Peter,
would just add one thing that I thought was really impactful, although it was pretty intense, was when we were in Belfast. We spent some time in the parts of the city that had a troubled history,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and we learned about about some of the conflict that is still ongoing there. And I think
Mhm.
that's it's very easy for us to in this being an ocean away to think things are no longer conflicts are no longer active or think that we understand them. So that was really that was incredible to me just to kind
Yeah.
of spend some time in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland. We were also in
Mhm.
Derry, which is one of
Mhm.
the few walled cities in Europe.
Mhm.
Had a private tour of the walls of Derry, which I thought was endlessly interesting because it was about how the walls were built,
Mhm.
protecting the walls, what kind of conflicts occurred with the city. So it was just that, there's some really great mix of, I think, feel good things, but also I think Nicola kind of talked about it, the um, thought provoking
Yeah.
um, content as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's part of the biggest aspects of the journey is the cultural aspects and the fact that everyone is welcome. So like we had mentioned before, this isn't just for library professionals. You can bring a guest, you can bring those. I mean, Peter, you were once a guest of a library professional on a journey in the past. So guests are absolutely welcome. And as Peter also mentioned, that oftentimes those guests have a lot more to brag about than the actual library professionals. So there's always a good time had throughout, but sometimes the guests have a little bit more fun in terms of experiences. My job is to keep an eye on the clock to make sure that we're done by 3. So I know we only have 9 minutes left. But is there anything that stands out to you, Nicola, on the accompanying guest side or on the cultural side, whether that be cooking classes or anything like that, that you'd like to share on for this particular journey?
Yeah, I think for the guests, I think the Halong Bay,
Yeah,
kind of the
I
junk
agree.
boat that you see here. So think 1600 islands, grottos, emerald green waters, little coves and places for you to spend the day on the water, I think. That will be a highlight. And Peter, that might be one that you might have been thinking about when you had your curious question earlier about kind of switching between them. But yeah, the guests have a great time. Typically, 4 to 6 people. Typically we have, about 4 to 5 professional engagements that are usually a couple of hours long. So during that time is when these wonderful activities are layered in. Um, Everybody just has a great time. And then at nighttime, you all come together and share about your day. So the learning and the exchange just keeps going.
That's great. Yeah, so all are welcome. Bring a friend, bring a travel companion. Like I always say, bring your old friends and make new friends along the way. That's what I love
Mhm.
about group travel.
Yeah.
So talking about the itinerary, one last time in the pricing. Again, we are departing October 11th, 3rd to the 11th. Features 14 meals. The cost is $64.99 per person, which includes air from LAX, which is based on a double occupancy. If you are traveling as a single, it's an additional single supplement of $1,299 if you're traveling as a single. If you are not in the LA area, Nicola and her team, they are able to find major gateways flights for you into LA or flights where you can meet the group in Vietnam. So regardless of where you are in the country, we are able to find a way to get you to where you need to be on time. To hold your spot, as Nicola had mentioned earlier today, to hold your spot, it's only $500 per person, but she had mentioned that the space is limited to 16 participants. I know it says 20 here, but it's only 16, right,
It's
Nicola?
it's it's 16 to 20 maximum, but we
16 to 20
typically,
max.
yeah, 20 max. So we typically, I think we tend to enjoy about 16 people on this journey.
Perfect. And we had roughly about 15 people on the webinar today. So that really means I usually count one person counts for 2 people. So that's like 30 people who are interested. So I always tell people it's better to have a seat and not need it than need a seat and not have it. So that $500 is fully refundable minus a $95 service fee until May 6th, 2026. So if you are thinking about coming, it is better to hold your deposit, put your deposit down, and know that you have your seat and then make that decision later if something changes. You always have until May 6th. You have a few months to kind of make it, but we hate putting people on wait lists. So if you are interested in joining us, please sign up sooner as opposed to later. And you can scan that QR code for additional information on the website for you to sign up virtually. You're able to do that as well. You don't necessarily have to call Nicola. You can call Nicola and her team, but you don't have to make reservations. You can do it all online. Very easy, very simple to do to get your name in. Also, in addition, I don't know if you want to talk about the January savings, Nicola, for those that are interested in signing up. If they sign up by January, they have a chance for a special savings.
They do, yes. We just issued our newsletter last week, and we're calling this our year of happiness this year. Last year was a year of joy. And to celebrate that happy, we're extending an opportunity for a $200 discount if you book by the end of January. So that will automatically drop off and no longer be available. So happy 200 if you make your reservation before the end of the month.
Love that. And then in addition to that, we always offer opportunities for you to experience the journey your way. There are opportunities if you're looking for air upgrades, if you want to stay a little bit longer. Talk about some of the ways, Nicola, that the people on the webinar today can learn, or people watching the recording can kind of customize and include in their
Yeah,
journey.
if you'd like to stay a little bit longer in Vietnam or in the region itself, we're happy to provide assistance to help you explore before the journey, after the journey. Some people like to do an air upgrade to business class or first class, or arrive a little earlier, like a pre-night, to orientate yourself to the destination. All of those things are possible. So we have the core program, but if you want to make any adaptations whatsoever, we're here to help support that and make it your journey, your way.
That's fantastic. And last but certainly not least, although it's not required, it is always highly recommended when traveling overseas, and that's journey protection. Talk a little bit about that journey protection, what it covers, and kind of how people can go about getting theirs.
Yeah, we put it in here because we highly recommend it. The worst conversation I have is somebody who has to cancel their journey a week or so before, and they don't have insurance, and they unfortunately lose out all of their funds. So we do encourage it. We do recommend traffic insurance, but you're welcome to, of course, engage your own travel coverage. The one thing we just encourage you to do is have it. It's definitely money well spent. We all don't like insurance. We don't like our car insurance. We don't like our home insurance. We don't like any of that. But when you need it, we really, really, really enjoy it. So that's just something we're happy to have a conversation around and assist you or provide guidance on what kind of coverage.
Another one of those things that it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yes, unfortunately, yes.
For those of you that are Medicare or Medicaid, or please keep in mind that does not cover you overseas. So it also becomes your medical coverage while you're traveling as well. Heaven forbid something were to go wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't see any questions, but if you do have any questions, please click on the Q&A. We have about 3 minutes here for a couple of questions. Please feel free to ask questions. I do have a question of my own. I asked this of all journey hosts. In regards to the destination, Peter, what are you looking forward to most?
I'm really looking forward to understanding Vietnam, because as a Gen X person, my understanding of Vietnam is the post-war era and the movies and television that depicted that and the aftermath. And I want to understand Vietnam in the context of libraries and literature and literacy throughout its entire history, not just that one dark moment.
I love, yeah, that's amazing. Like, one of those things that Nicola mentioned, going with no expectations, but also kind of with preconceived notions that get dispelled once you're going through all the different experiences. That's such a powerful part of travel.
And it also, anybody that's that on the webinar today, again, thank you for being here. But if you'd like to come on and chat with us, we can actually make that happen for you. As Michael said, the Q&A and the chat's open to you. But if you want to join the conversation, just let us know. We're happy to bring you on.
Janelle, Peter, number 2, Peter Falone. Not to put you on the spot, I don't know if you're planning on going on this journey or not and going to Vietnam, but if you are planning on going, or if you have thoughts about going, what has caused you to want to go, or kind of what are you looking forward to the most?
Thing I'm looking forward to most, without a doubt, is seeing Peter Hepburn again. And how long has it been, Peter, since we were walking on the Giant's Causeway?
Exactly. It's been over a year, and I'm hopeful not only to see you in Vietnam, but in Rhode Island in spring.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like Peter, my wife and I just love to travel. The more off the beaten track the destination is, the better, because it's just more to learn, not feeling completely comfortable with, the world has become a place where so much of it is similar, and you hit the ground, you go from the airport and you're like, oh, I recognize this. I know how to navigate that. So I really look forward. We went to China. I loved being in Asia, mainly because especially when there's no signage in English and you don't really, you can't really navigate it on your own. That's a good thing. I enjoy that. It's very stimulating. But I can't imagine, the cultural offerings look great, and the meetings look like they would be even more interesting than, meeting with a library that's a little more Western. So
Mhm.
just all around it, just and the food. I agree with Peter. I'm a big fan of Vietnamese food. So
Love that.
all, and I assume the weather. What's the weather like in October? Maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah, I think the weather you can expect to have, kind of warm days. There
No rain.
shouldn't be too much when that question is posed to me these days, I'm like, consult with Mother Nature. My mantra is keep up your karma points and she'll take care of you.
I
That's what
don't
I said
really.
to my recent group in Australia and New Zealand, and it worked. She's
Yeah.
mad with us and she's less predictable. But you should enjoy pretty warm days and not too much rain.
I ask that in a sense facetiously because I don't really care. It's like
Yeah.
you get what
Yeah.
you get, and that's part of what it is where you're going. So
But it's an important part, but less predictable these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can see that we're at 3 o'clock now. So, Peter, I will leave you, Peter Hepburn, I'll leave you with one final word. Anything you want to leave the group or those that are listening with? Any final words?
I have nothing else to add, just to say I really would love to see all of you in Vietnam in October, please.
Love that. And Nicola, I'll leave the final words to you.
Yeah, I just say welcome everybody to the Nanda family. For those of you returning and those of you just considering joining us, we can't wait to talk to you. We're here to answer any questions. We love conversation, so please call if you have questions, and we're happy to help get you registered for Vietnam.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Nicola. Again, if you guys have any questions, you can see the information there, the website, the phone number. Give us a call, shoot us an email, register. Again, thank you, Nicola. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Danelle. Thank you, Peter Squared. We appreciate you guys all joining us this afternoon. We look forward to seeing you on the next Nanda Journey, and we look forward, more importantly, to seeing you in Vietnam in October. Thank you so much, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
thank you.